First Contact Protocol. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the ESS Endeavour, watching as the massive crystalline spires of the Galactic Assembly's headquarters grew larger in the viewscreen. The structure was a testament to advanced engineering, its translucent surfaces refracting starlight in ways that seemed to defy physics. Yet something about its perfection made her uneasy. Quite the sight, isn't it? Dr. Marcus Wong joined her at the window, his dark eyes reflecting the shimmer of the station. As the mission's eye specialist, he had spent the last 3 months studying the Assembly's publicly shared technological specifications. Beautiful, but perhaps too beautiful. Sarah nodded, appreciating that she wasn't the only one feeling unsettled. Like a spider's web in morning dew, she replied softly. Magnificent, until you consider its purpose. The Endeavour was humanity's first diplomatic vessel to be invited to the Assembly's annual Technology Exchange Summit. After decades of observation from the edges of known space, Earth had finally received an invitation to join the galactic community. The official message had praised humanity's remarkable progress and unique potential. Security Chief Diana Torres appeared at Sarah's other side, her posture rigid despite her casual tone. Our hosts are certainly eager to show off their toys. The welcome packet included access to technologies that would advance Earth's development by at least a century. Too eager, Sarah murmured. She turned to face her senior staff, keeping her voice low despite the supposedly private location. Both of you felt it too then. The convenience of it all. Marcus pulled out his tablet, his fingers dancing across the surface. The technological packages they've offered are comprehensive, almost surgically targeted to address every major challenge Earth currently faces: energy crisis, climate restoration, disease control, faster-than-light travel improvements. Perfect solutions to problems we've barely made public, Diana added, her dark eyes narrowing. Some of which weren't even included in our official First Contact package. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She had chosen her senior staff not just for their expertise, but for their instincts. The fact that they had all independently noticed the same discrepancies validated her growing concerns. Commander, the ship's AI announced, we're receiving docking instructions from Assembly Control. They've assigned us to Bay 17, Level 5. Acknowledged, ARIA. Begin docking procedures. Sarah straightened her uniform, a habit born of years of military service. Let's proceed as planned, but keep your eyes open. Something tells me this summit is more than a simple welcome party. The docking procedure was flawless. Too flawless, Sarah noted. The Assembly's automated systems integrated with the Endeavour's controls as if they had been designed specifically for Earth vessels, despite this being humanity's first visit. The ease of it all only heightened her suspicion. As they disembarked, they were greeted by their official liaison, a tall, ethereal being who introduced itself as Xaveth of the luminary species. Its translucent skin seemed to pulse with inner light, and its movements were almost hypnotically graceful. Welcome, honored representatives of Earth. Xaveth's words emerged as perfectly accented English, though its mouth didn't move. The Assembly is most pleased by your arrival. We have prepared extensive presentations on the technological aid packages we're offering. We're grateful for the Assembly's generosity. Sarah replied diplomatically. Earth looks forward to learning from our galactic neighbors. As Xaveth led them through the station's grand corridors, Sarah noticed Marcus subtly scanning their surroundings with his tablet. Diana's eyes constantly moved, mapping exits and noting the positions of what appeared to be security drones disguised as decorative orbs. The first red flag appeared during the initial technological briefing. A representative from the Nexus Consortium, the Assembly's leading technological provider, was explaining their AI integration protocols. The basic package includes full integration with our standardized systems, the representative, a crystalline being named Zyrix, explained. This will allow Earth's infrastructure to seamlessly connect with Assembly networks. Marcus raised his hand, his expression carefully neutral. What about compatibility with existing Earth systems? Our current AI frameworks are quite different from what I'm seeing here. Oh, that won't be a problem. Xyrix's crystal facets sparkled in what might have been amusement. Our systems are designed to completely replace outdated technology. It's much more efficient that way. Sarah caught Diana's subtle hand signal, a warning gesture they had developed during their years working together. Complete replacement meant complete dependency. The day continued with similar presentations, each more concerning than the last. Energy systems that required constant maintenance from assembly technicians, medical technologies that only worked with assembly-approved supplies, ATL drive improvements that needed regular certification from consortium engineers. During a brief recess, Sarah gathered her team in a quiet corner of their assigned quarters. Marcus immediately activated a signal scrambler, disguised as a simple Earth communication device. They're not even being subtle about it, Diana said, her voice tight with controlled anger. Every single gift comes with strings attached, strings that lead straight back to the consortium. Marcus nodded, showing them his tablet. I've been analyzing the technical specifications they've provided. The integration protocols aren't just about compatibility. They're designed to slowly override and replace any independent systems. Within a decade, Earth would be completely dependent on assembly technology. And we're not the first, Sarah added, pulling up images she had captured during their tour. Did you notice the other species representatives? Particularly the newer members. The way they defer to the consortium officials, how they barely speak unless spoken to. Like addicts, Diana muttered, dependent on their next fix of technological support. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. The assembly wasn't offering membership. They were offering submission, wrapped in a package so attractive that most species probably embraced it willingly. By the time they realized the true cost, they were too dependent to break free. We need to know more, she decided. Marcus, I want you to dig deeper into these integration protocols. Find out exactly how they work, and more importantly, if there are ways to resist them. Diana, map this station's security systems. If we need to move without being observed, I want to know how. What about the diplomatic side? Diana asked. We're expected to give Earth's preliminary response to their offers tomorrow. Sarah's expression hardened with determination. We'll play along for now. Express gratitude, show interest, but commit to nothing. We need time to understand what we're really dealing with here. As her team dispersed to their assigned tasks, Sarah stood at the window of their quarters, looking out at the glittering expanse of the assembly station. Its beauty now seemed more menacing than magnificent, its perfect symmetry revealing itself as the bars of a gilded cage. They chose the wrong species to trap, she whispered to herself. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting against those who would dominate others through superior technology and false promises. They had learned their lessons well. The assembly thought they were welcoming another naive species into their web of technological dependency. Instead, they had just invited in the one species that might finally expose their true nature and have the will to do something about it. Sarah smiled grimly as she watched another ship dock, no doubt carrying more potential victims for the assembly's sophisticated trap. They would need to be careful, gather evidence, and plan their moves with precision. But one thing was certain. Humanity's first contact with the galactic community was about to become far more interesting than anyone had anticipated. And somewhere in the depths of the station, encrypted data streams carried reports about the New Earth delegation, noting their polite interest and apparent eagerness to receive technological aid. None of the reports mentioned the subtle scanning devices, the careful observations, or the growing suspicion in the human's eyes. The trap was set, just as it had been countless times before. But this time, the prey was watching the spider. Digital breadcrumbs. Dr. Marcus Wong hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the soft glow of his holoscreen kept his mind razor-sharp. Lines of alien code scrolled past his eyes as he dissected the gift of artificial intelligence protocols the assembly had provided. Behind him, 3 separate quantum processors hummed quietly, running simulations of the integration patterns he discovered. RIA. He called out to the Endeavor's AI, "Run comparison analysis Delta 7 on the latest data stream." Analysis complete. RIA responded moments later. Pattern match found with previous instances. Certainty level, 98.7%. Marcus leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his disheveled hair. Just as I thought. It's not just invasive. It's parasitic. The door to his lab slid open, admitting Commander Chen and Chief Torres. Sarah took one look at his exhausted face and frowned. "Tell me you've at least eaten something today." The results were too important. Marcus gestured to his screens. "Look at this. The integration protocols they gave us. They're designed to evolve. Each update becomes more deeply embedded in the host system, gradually replacing native processes with assembly-controlled alternatives." Diana moved closer to examine the data. "Like a virus that rewrites DNA." "Exactly." Marcus pulled up a simulation. "It starts with simple optimizations, legitimate improvements that no one would question. But buried in each update are dormant subroutines that activate over time. They create dependencies so subtle that by the time anyone notices, the original system is completely compromised." Sarah's expression darkened. "How long before a system is fully converted?" "Based on my simulations. For Earth's current technology level, about 8 years. Marcus displayed another chart. "But the real genius is in the timing. The benefits appear immediately, while the dependencies develop so gradually that they seem like natural technological evolution." Speaking of evolution, Diana activated her own datapad. "I've been mapping behavioral patterns among assembly members. The longer a species has been part of the assembly, the more uniform their decisions become. Almost like they're running on the same operating system." Marcus finished. "The AI protocols don't just affect technology. They influence decision-making processes, subtly guiding choices toward assembly-approved options." Sarah paced the small lab, her mind working through the implications. "Have you found any weaknesses?" A small smile crossed Marcus's tired face. "Actually, yes. Their system is incredibly sophisticated, but it has one critical flaw. It's designed to subjugate species that follow expected technological development patterns. Earth's approach to AI has been unconventional." He pulled up a comparison of Earth's AI architecture versus the assembly standard. Most species develop AI in a linear fashion, building increasingly complex hierarchical systems. Earth's development was chaotic. We explored multiple paths simultaneously, created redundancies that shouldn't work but do. Araya herself uses principles that the assembly systems don't account for. "Which means," Sarah pressed, "which means we might be able to create a vaccine." Marcus's eyes gleamed with excitement despite his exhaustion. "A way to prevent their protocols from taking hold, or even reverse existing infiltration. But I'll need more data, specifically about how their system has affected other species." Diana straightened. "Leave that to me. I've noticed the Rylaxian delegation seems different from the others, less integrated. Their security chief, Catal, has been watching the consortium representatives with what I'd swear was suspicion." "Can you make contact safely?" Sarah asked. "Already laid the groundwork. We've been accidentally meeting in the station's training facility. Tomorrow we're scheduled for a joint security exercise." Diana's smile held a predatory edge. "Amazing how much people talk during hand-to-hand combat practice." Sarah nodded approvingly. "Good. But we need more." "Marcus, what about the consortium's central database?" "Heavily encrypted and isolated from the main network," he replied. "But during the integration demonstrations, I noticed something interesting. Their systems are designed to automatically collect data from any connected technology. They're so confident in their encryption that they don't really check what's flowing in." "Meaning?" "Meaning I might be able to hide some targeted queries inside the diagnostic data they're so eager to collect from our systems. They're watching for resistance, not curiosity." If we play the role of the eager students, they might just teach us exactly how to beat them. Sarah finished. Do it. But be careful. We can't afford to attract attention yet. The next several days passed in a blur of activity. Diana's training sessions with Catal revealed that the Rylaxians had indeed noticed the pattern of dependency, but lacked the technological expertise to fight it. Their solution had been to maintain older systems in secret, presenting a facade of compliance while preserving their independence where they could. Marcus, meanwhile, had turned his lab into a hub of controlled chaos. Screens displayed endless streams of data as he used the assembly's own protocols to siphon information from their databases. Each query was disguised as ordinary integration testing, hidden beneath layers of apparently naive technical questions. "Commander," he called Sarah to his lab late one night, his voice tight with excitement. "I found something. A record of the first species they uplifted, the Zenthari. Look at their technological development curve." The graph he displayed showed a sharp rise in advancement, followed by an equally sharp drop in independent innovation. After initial integration, almost all their new developments came from collaboration with the consortium. They haven't created anything truly new in over a century. "They're not just controlling technology," Sarah murmured. "They're stifling innovation itself." "Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Some of the early Zenthari resistance strategies are still buried in the Assembly's archives. They failed ultimately, but combined with what we know now." A soft chime interrupted them. Diana's urgent contact signal. When she arrived moments later, her expression was grim. "Catal's gone," she reported. "Officially recalled to Rylax for technical consultation. But before he left, he gave me this." She held up a small data crystal, said if anything happened to him, I should make sure it reached the right hands. Marcus quickly scanned the crystal. "It's encrypted. Heavy protection, too. This is serious data. Can you crack it?" "Better," Marcus smiled. "I can use the Assembly's own decryption protocols, the ones they so helpfully provided for our system integration. They won't even notice the processing power being used since they'll think we're just running standard tests." Sarah looked between her two officers, feeling the weight of the moment. They were pulling on threads that could unravel the entire Assembly's power structure, if they were caught. But the alternative was watching Earth fall into the same trap that had ensnared so many others. "Keep digging," she ordered. "But start preparing fallback plans. If Catal could be removed that easily, none of us is safe. Marcus, I want you to begin developing that vaccine immediately. Diana, map every possible escape route from this station. If things go wrong, we'll need to get our findings back to Earth." As her officers returned to their tasks, Sarah moved to the lab's window, watching the endless stream of ships arriving at the assembly station. Each one carried representatives from worlds that might soon lose their independence, all while believing they were advancing into a brighter future. "Not if we can help it," she whispered to her reflection. Somewhere in the station, Catal was probably already being re-educated to better appreciate the Assembly's generosity. His sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. The game was becoming more dangerous, but they were finally starting to understand the rules. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was changing the rules to suit their needs. In his lab, Marcus's processors continued their relentless analysis, piecing together the digital breadcrumbs that would reveal the full extent of the Assembly's deception. And in the darkness of space beyond the station, more ships approached, carrying more potential victims, or perhaps, unknowingly, the allies they would soon need in the fight to come. The web unravels. 6 more species have signed integration agreements this week alone. Diana Torres reported, her voice tight with contained frustration. The senior staff of the ESS Endeavour had gathered in what appeared to be a routine diplomatic planning session. In reality, the room's walls hummed with counter-surveillance devices, disguised as standard Earth communication equipment. Commander Sarah Chen studied the holographic display, showing the latest Assembly membership statistics. And the Rylaxians. No official word since Catal's recall, Diana's expression darkened. But their delegation has been noticeably more compliant since then. Whatever the assembly did, it worked. Dr. Marcus Wong looked up from his datapad, dark circles under his eyes, evidence of another sleepless night. Not entirely. I finished decrypting Kettle's data crystal. It's a goldmine. Security protocols, backdoor access codes, and most importantly, a list of contacts among other species who've noticed the assembly's true nature. Sarah leaned forward. How many? 17 potential allies across 12 species. Marcus displayed a new hologram showing various alien races, each marked with subtle indicators of their position within the assembly hierarchy. Some are like the Rylaxians, maintaining old tech in secret. Others are newer arrivals, just beginning to notice the pattern. A few are even from fully integrated species who've managed to preserve their independence through various means. We can't approach them directly, Diana warned. After Kettle, they'll be watching for any unusual interspecies connections. Sarah's lips curved in a slight smile. Then we won't be unusual. We'll be exactly what they expect. Naive newcomers eager to learn from everyone we meet. She turned to her communication officer, Lieutenant Patel, who had been quietly monitoring assembly channels. Raj, how's our cultural exchange program coming along? Ready to launch, Commander. We've received approval to host a series of Earth cultural appreciation events. The Assembly actually seemed pleased by our initiative to better understand our place in the galactic community. Perfect. Sarah stood, pacing the room as she outlined her plan. We'll use these events as cover for making connections. Marcus, sort those contacts by risk level. We'll start with the ones who have the most freedom of movement, work our way up to the more closely monitored species. What about the vaccine? Diana asked. Marcus pulled up another display, this one showing complex lines of code. It's progressing. Tull's data helped confirm my theories about the Assembly's control protocols. They're not just technological, they're psychological. The systems are designed to create a form of technological Stockholm syndrome, but that's actually their weakness. How so? Sarah asked. Their entire strategy relies on the victim species believing they need assembly technology to progress. If we can demonstrate a viable alternative. He trailed off as warning lights suddenly flashed on his datapad. Speaking of which, we've got incoming. Looks like a routine system scan, but the pattern's new. The team quickly shifted positions and displays, transforming back into the picture of a standard diplomatic briefing just as their door chimed. A tall, multi-limbed being entered, one of the Assembly's technical advisors. Greetings, Earth delegation. Its translator produced perfectly modulated tones. We noticed some unusual processing patterns during your integration testing. I trust everything is proceeding satisfactorily. Oh yes, Marcus adopted an expression of eager enthusiasm. Your systems are fascinating. We've been running multiple scenarios to better understand the optimization protocols. There's so much to learn. The advisor's upper limbs moved in what might have been satisfaction. Excellent. Remember, our technical support teams are always available if you require assistance. After the advisor left, Sarah waited for Marcus's nod confirming they were clear before speaking. They're getting suspicious. We need to move faster. Over the next few weeks, the Endeavor's crew executed their plan with careful precision. The Earth Cultural Appreciation events became the talk of the station, each one carefully themed to attract specific delegations. A showcase of Earth's martial arts traditions through military species. A presentation on Earth's computing history attracted technological races. Each event was meticulously designed to allow for natural, seemingly innocent conversations. Diana proved particularly adept at making connections during the martial arts demonstrations. Many species, she explained during one briefing, use combat training as a way to communicate without words. It's intimate, but not suspicious, especially since we're obviously less advanced than they are. Marcus, meanwhile, had begun distributing fragments of his vaccine program, disguised as typical integration queries. The beauty of their arrogance, he told Sarah, is that they don't believe we could possibly understand their systems well enough to subvert them. Each piece looks like standard compatibility testing, but when combined, the breakthrough came during a presentation on Earth's artistic traditions. The Zenthari representative, a being of swirling energy contained within a crystalline shell, approached Sarah after viewing a holographic display of Earth's great architectural works. "Your species builds in chaos," the Zenthari observed, its patterns shifting in what Sarah had learned to recognize as agitation. "Like our ancestors once did, before the Great Integration. We find beauty in variation," Sarah replied carefully, noting the emphasis on ancestors. The Zenthari's energy patterns pulsed rapidly. Perhaps you would be interested in viewing some preserved records of pre-integration Zenthari architecture. For historical comparison, of course. It was the opening they'd been waiting for. The Zenthari, they discovered, had maintained a secret archive of their society's independent achievements, hidden beneath layers of assembly-approved historical records. More importantly, they weren't alone. "It's like an underground preservation movement," Marcus explained later, examining the data the Zenthari had carefully shared. Different species, all maintaining hidden connections to their pre-integration culture and technology. They've been waiting for someone to help them break free, but none of them had the technological understanding to counter the assembly's control. "Until now," Sarah said softly. She looked around at her team, seeing the same determination reflected in their eyes. "How many species have we confirmed as potential allies?" 23, Diana reported, with possible connections to at least 30 more. "The network is larger than we thought, just disconnected. Afraid. Not for long." Sarah activated a secure display, showing the latest version of Marcus's vaccine program. "Are we ready?" Marcus nodded. "The basic version is complete. It won't break their control completely, but it will prevent further integration and begin slowly restoring independent function. More importantly, it's designed to look like a natural technological evolution. By the time they realize what's happening, it will be too late." Sarah studied the display, feeling the weight of the moment. They had done it, found the allies they needed, developed the tools to fight back. But the next phase would be the most dangerous yet. "Send the signal," she ordered. "It's time to show the assembly that their perfect web has more than a few loose threads." As her team dispersed to their tasks, Sarah moved to the window of their quarters, watching the endless flow of ships against the star-filled backdrop. Soon, those ships would carry more than trade goods and diplomatic delegations. They would carry hope, and the means to turn the assembly's own technological arrogance against them. The web was beginning to unravel, one carefully pulled thread at a time. And when it finally fell apart, the species trapped within it would discover that their supposed technological paradise had been a prison all along. In the depths of the station, Marcus's vaccine program began its silent spread, hiding within the very protocols the assembly used to maintain control. Like a whisper of freedom in a land of chains, it moved from system to system, waiting for the signal to awaken. The real revolution, Sarah knew, wouldn't come with weapons or wars. It would come with the simple realization that the bars of their technological cage had been unlocked all along. They just needed the courage to push the door open. Silent Revolution. Lieutenant Amelia Hartley, the Endeavour's chief engineer, stared at the holographic display in Dr. Wong's lab, watching as thousands of tiny green dots pulsed across a map of the assembly station. Each dot represented a system successfully inoculated with Marcus's vaccine program. The effect was hypnotic, like watching antibodies attack a virus. "Sector 7 is fully protected now," she reported, marking off another section on her checklist. "The Rylaxian backup systems are coming online exactly as planned." Marcus nodded without looking up from his workstation, where streams of code flickered past at dizzying speeds. The assembly's latest mandatory update just went out. "They still think they're tightening their control, but they're actually distributing our countermeasures for us." "Ironic," Commander Chen remarked from her position by the door. Their own efficiency is becoming their greatest weakness. The past month had been a careful dance of deception and precise timing. While the assembly continued to believe Earth was eagerly adopting their technology, the human team had been coordinating a silent revolution throughout the station. Species that had long hidden their resistance were now being armed with the tools to break free, all while maintaining the appearance of perfect compliance. Diana Torres entered the lab, her movements controlled but her eyes bright with suppressed excitement. The Zenthari archivists just confirmed they've successfully restored access to their original scientific database. 3 centuries of independent research, ready to be reintegrated once we give the signal. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. And the other species? Better than we hoped. Diana activated her own datapad, displaying a matrix of status reports. The Rylaxians have reconnected with their old military command structures. The Volan traders have reactivated their independent commerce networks. Even the Meridians, who we thought were completely integrated, had maintained secret enclaves of original technology. The Assembly's greatest mistake, Marcus commented, finally looking up from his work, was assuming that technological dependency would lead to cultural submission. They never considered that species might find ways to preserve their independence through non-technological means. Amelia pointed to a new cluster of green dots appearing on her display. Look at this. The Kitharan medical facilities are coming online. Their traditional healing knowledge, combined with our vaccine program, will give them everything they need to break free from assembly medical protocols. Sarah finished. How long until we reach critical mass? Marcus consulted his calculations. At the current rate of distribution, we'll have protected systems in place for 60% of member species within 2 weeks. The vaccine is also evolving faster than expected, learning from each new system it encounters, becoming more efficient at restoring independent function. The Assembly still suspects nothing? Sarah asked. Diana shook her head. They're too convinced of their own superiority. Every time they detect an anomaly, they assume it's just another species struggling to properly integrate their superior technology. Their own arrogance has become our best camouflage. A soft chime interrupted them. One of the warning signals they'd established with their growing network of allies. Amelia quickly accessed the message. The Volan Trading Guild is reporting increased assembly inspections in the outer sectors, she reported. They might be starting to notice something. We knew they would eventually, Sarah said calmly. But by the time they understand what's really happening, it will be too late to stop it. Marcus, how's the final phase coming along? The AI specialist pulled up a new display, this one showing a complex web of interconnected systems. The master control protocol is ready. Once we activate it, every protected system will simultaneously reject assembly control protocols. The separation will look like a natural technological evolution, their systems appearing to simply outgrow the need for assembly oversight. And the backdoors they built into everything? Diana asked. Will be sealed permanently, Marcus assured her. In fact, we're using their own access protocols against them. Every attempt they make to regain control will only strengthen the independence of the freed systems. Sarah studied the displays, watching as more green dots appeared across the station map. Each one represented not just a protected system, but hope for a species that had long lost its independence. The Assembly had spent centuries building their web of control, never imagining that their carefully constructed prison could be transformed into a network of liberation. Commander, Amelia called out suddenly, I'm detecting increased power fluctuations in the Assembly's central processing hub. They're running deeper system scans than usual. They're starting to feel it, Marcus observed. The subtle changes in how their subject species are responding. The tiny delays in system compliance. Like an itch they can't quite locate. Sarah straightened, her decision made. Move up the timetable. If they're going to catch on anyway, I want it to be on our terms. How soon can we begin the final phase? Marcus quickly ran calculations. The primary systems are ready. We'd be at only 55% coverage instead of 60%, but the vaccine's evolution rate should make up the difference. Do it, Sarah ordered. "Contact our allies. Tell them to prepare for Liberation Protocol Alpha. In 72 hours, we show the Assembly that their technological empire is about to experience a very significant upgrade." As her team rushed to implement her orders, Sarah moved to the lab's window. In the distance, she could see the Assembly's central tower rising like a spire of crystalline authority. Soon, that symbol of control would become a beacon of freedom, though the Assembly didn't know it yet. Through the reflection in the window, she watched her crew working with intense focus. Amelia coordinating with allied engineering teams, Diana updating security protocols with resistance cells, Marcus fine-tuning the final execution sequence. Humans working alongside hidden allies throughout the station, all preparing for a revolution that would change the face of galactic society. The Assembly had built their power on the assumption that advanced technology could only flow in one direction, from them to their dependent subjects. They were about to learn that true innovation wasn't about control or standardization. It was about freedom, diversity, and the unstoppable drive of sentient beings to chart their own course among the stars. In 3 days, their silent revolution would finally find its voice, and the Assembly would discover that the species they had sought to enslave had instead become the architects of their own liberation. In the depths of the station, Marcus's vaccine continued its quiet work, spreading through systems and networks like a digital whisper of freedom. Soon, that whisper would become a chorus, the sound of dozens of species reclaiming their technological independence all at once. The countdown had begun. Dawn of liberation. The Assembly's Grand Chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member species filled the tiered seating, their attention fixed on the central platform, where the Assembly's High Council faced the Earth delegation. Through the crystalline dome above, the light of distant stars cast ever-shifting patterns across the gathered beings. Commander Sarah Chen stood calmly at the podium, aware that this moment would reshape galactic society forever. Behind her, Dr. Marcus Wong worked quietly at a portable terminal, while Chief Diana Torres maintained a carefully relaxed stance that belied her combat readiness. Delegates of Earth, the Assembly's prime administrator, a towering figure of swirling energy and crystalline armor, addressed them with the same condescending tone they'd grown familiar with. "You have called this emergency session with claims of a critical discovery in our integration protocols. The Assembly is curious about what a species so new to our community believes it has found." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Actually, Prime Administrator, we've called this session to thank you. Your generosity in sharing your technology has taught us more than you can imagine." The administrator's energy patterns shifted in what might have been amusement. "We are pleased by your gratitude. Earth's swift adoption of our systems has been most satisfactory." "Oh, we haven't adopted your systems." Sarah's smile widened slightly. "We've simply learned how they work." "Marcus." Dr. Wong activated his terminal, and suddenly, the chamber's massive display screens came to life. Data streams appeared, showing real-time information about every system in the station, including those that were supposed to be hidden from member species. The administrator's amusement vanished. "How did you access your secure networks?" Sarah finished for him. "The same way you plan to access ours. Your integration protocols work both ways, once you understand their true nature." She turned to address the gathered representatives. "Which many of you already did, didn't you? You just needed a way to break free." Murmurs spread through the chamber as species after species recognized their own secret suspicions in her words. The administrator's energy form crackled with barely contained anger. "This is an outrage." Guards detained the Earth delegation. But the security drones remained motionless. Diana allowed herself a predatory grin. "Having some technical difficulties. Amazing how unreliable centralized control systems can be." "What have you done?" the administrator demanded. "Given everyone a choice," Sarah replied firmly. "Marcus, show them." New displays appeared, these showing the status of various member species systems. One by one, Indicators began switching from red to green as long-dormant independent systems came online. The chamber erupted in gasps and exclamations as species discovered their technology responding to their own commands again. "Impossible," one of the council members declared. "Our integration protocols are perfect." "No," Marcus spoke up, his fingers dancing across his terminal. "They're predictable. You designed them to control species that develop technology in a linear fashion. Humanity's chaotic approach to innovation let us see patterns you never considered, and we weren't the only ones." Sarah gestured to the gathered delegates. "Look around you." The Zenthari preserved their original scientific knowledge through oral tradition. The Rylaxians maintained independent systems disguised as religious artifacts. The Volan hid their trading algorithms in children's games. You thought technology alone could ensure obedience, but you forgot about the resilience of culture. The administrator's form had contracted, his energy patterns razor-sharp with fury. "You have no idea what you're doing. Without our guidance, without standardization, there will be chaos." "There will be freedom," Sarah corrected. "Freedom to innovate, to create, to choose. Something your assembly claims to value, but actually fears." She pressed a control on the podium, and new information filled the screens. Evidence of the assembly's manipulation, their deliberate suppression of independent development, their careful cultivation of technological dependency. The chamber fell silent as centuries of deception were laid bare. Then, from the upper tiers, a Zenthari representative stood, their crystalline shell pulsing with long-hidden emotions. "The Earth delegation speaks truth," their translator boomed. "We have lived under this subtle tyranny for too long. No more." Others stood, Rylaxians, Volan, Meridians, and dozens more. Species that had been silent for generations found their voices again. The administrator's energy form flared dangerously. "This is sedition. Our technology built this society. Without us." "Without you," Sarah interrupted firmly, "these species will rebuild their own societies. Together, if they choose, but as equals." "Marcus?" At his terminal, Dr. Wong initiated the final sequence. Throughout the station, throughout the Assembly's entire sphere of influence, the vaccine program reached its full activation. Everywhere, systems began reverting to independent control, breaking free from Assembly oversight while maintaining their advanced capabilities. "What you're seeing," Marcus explained to the stunned chamber, "is not destruction. It's evolution. Each species' technology is now free to develop along its own path while maintaining compatibility with others. Real cooperation, not forced compliance." The administrator made a last, desperate gesture, attempting to trigger emergency protocols, but nothing responded. The Assembly's control was broken, and in its place, a new network was forming. One built on mutual respect and genuine exchange. "You've destroyed everything we built," the administrator accused. "No," Sarah replied calmly. "We've given everyone the chance to build something better. The choice of what to build is now theirs." Throughout the chamber, representatives were discovering their newfound freedom. Some wept, others celebrated, many simply stood in stunned silence as centuries of subtle control fell away. The council members, their power evaporating, could only watch. "Earth extends an invitation," Sarah announced to the chamber. "Not to submit to our way of doing things, but to join us in creating something new. A true federation of equals, where technology serves freedom rather than controls it. The choice is yours." The response began slowly. First the Zenthari, then the Rylaxians, then others. Species after species stepping forward, choosing to join not out of coercion but conviction. The Assembly's perfect web of control had been transformed into a network of liberation, and there would be no going back. Hours later, as the historic session concluded, and the work of building a new galactic society began, Sarah stood with her team on the Endeavor's observation deck. Below them, the station hummed with a new energy as species began the process of rediscovering their independent identities while forging genuine connections with their neighbors. pretty impressive for a primitive species," Diana remarked with satisfaction. Marcus nodded, still monitoring the cascade of system transformations across the network. They never understood that true advancement comes from diversity, not uniformity. Their perfect system was actually their perfect prison. "And now?" Amelia asked, joining them at the window. Sarah watched as ships began departing the station, carrying the news of liberation to worlds across the galaxy. "Now we do what humans do best. We adapt, we innovate, and we help others do the same. But this time, everyone gets to choose their own path." The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if celebrating the dawn of a new era. The Assembly's age of subtle domination was over. In its place, something new was being born. Something built not on control, but on the simple, powerful principle that true civilization flourishes in freedom. As the Endeavor prepared to begin its journey home, Sarah knew that their mission had achieved far more than they'd originally hoped. They hadn't just prevented Earth's technological enslavement. They'd helped free an entire galaxy from chains it hadn't even fully recognized. The silent revolution had found its voice, and its echo would reshape the cosmos for generations to come.